Good afternoon and welcome. I'm really excited to talk about this topic because it has been a really important part of my career. I will tell you, though, a lot of people think, why am I bothering with mentoring and flexion? I don't really know what these things mean. And it can be a struggle to think about that, particularly in your early career. It does, however, make an incredible difference as you look to advance your career. My name is Valerie Sutton, and I am the Transforming Federal Work Study Coordinator. So let's get started and think about how these two tools can help you advance your career. So the goals of the session is to first think about a new model of mentoring, because I think one of the challenges that folks have is, how do I get a mentor? It's this one person that is supposed to be amazing for me, and that's going to help my career. But the reality is, it's really about the range and density of your network. So what I recommend is creating a board of directors. And we're going to be talking about that more fully in the next couple of slides. The second part of the presentation is going to be focused on setting yourself up for success by utilizing reflection. And this is a tool that is very helpful in advancing your career, whether it's short reflections on a weekly basis or it's yearly reflections. But we're going to talk about some of the barriers to reflection and how you can overcome them to really advance your career. And then on the last part, I'm going to talk about some additional resources from the VCU Career Services office because they are absolutely amazing. All right, so let's talk about networks and what this means for you. So a developmental network expands the definition of mentoring. So it is a group of people who can help you achieve your career goals. These people can be formal or informal folks. So it could be your friends. It could also be more senior people. So it could be a VP of a company that you are working for. And what this does for you, and the goal of a developmental network, is really to help you gain the skills, knowledge, and opportunities for you to advance in your career the way you want to advance. So when you're thinking about creating this board of directors or developmental network, depending on how you want to frame it yourself, is that you want to think about the network diversity. So social network research has shown that it's really important to have this diversity in your network to have the flow of information, and you want to have it that it's not redundant information, right? So if you're in this closed network, a lot of times you're not seeing the big picture. So for example, you might be in a situation where you're getting a lot of information from your boss and they're being really what you think is a good mentor to you, but you're not being exposed to all the opportunities at the organization because you're really good at your job and your mentor wants to keep you there. So if that diversity is not there and you're only getting the information from your mentor, you're not seeing the vast amount of opportunities that might be out there. So you really want to be able to access a lot of valuable information. Now, there's two ways to define that diversity, and that's range and density. So when you think about range, you want to think about the big picture of your career and beyond your current company or your current situation and what is out there. So you want a wide range. But when you think about density, that might be an example of being in your company, but having many folks in your company that you really understand that particular area and it's dense in that area. So it's really important to think about that range and density in your network. So as you're thinking about your board of directors, you want to think about whether they're giving you career assistance or they're really giving you that social support that you need, that, like, I'm having a bad day, I need that cheerleader behind me. So when you think about the categories, you want to think about who might be a really good mentor for me. And that is a person that can provide both career assistance and that psychosocial assistance, that really emotional support that you might need when you're having a bad day, or maybe you mess something up at work and they can just say, it's not so bad and this is going to be an okay situation. Now, a sponsor, on the other hand, is going to be really high in career assistance. And so this is a person that is going to be looking out for you and saying, hey, there's a promotion here. So this might be 2 or 3 folks above you. They're not going to be giving you that psychosocial assistance, that cheerleading necessarily, because they're busy people, but they recognize that you are doing good work. And so they're going to make sure that they're passing those opportunities offered to you, or that you're getting them presented to you so that you have that opportunity. So that might be a stretch assignment. It might be another position within the company. It might be an extra project that really helps you to build your skills. Now, you can also look at your friends and peers. So they might not be able to give you a lot of career assistance. They might be able to, talk about a particular skill level or something like that, but they're going to be more of that cheerleader, and they're going to be like, yes, you can do this. This could also be family members, right? And they're like behind you 100%. They make you feel better. And then, of course, there are allies, and this is low on both career assistance and the support system that you have behind you. But it might be something you go to occasionally just to be like, to feel things out, right? And so you need all of these types of people in your network. Now, when you're identifying these people, there are 3 things that you want to think about. So first of all is who helps you to get the job done, right? So that could be your boss. It could be, and for me, it's my IT folks that really help me through some of the technology challenges that I might have. But it's those people that really will help you to hone your skills in a particular area. Then you want to think about those people that can help advance your career. And those are often more senior to you, but it also could be outside of your organization. So your network within, say, a professional association. And those are people that are just keeping an eye out, going back to that sponsor level folks for you and the opportunities that might present themselves. And then finally, that personal support that you want, right? So you're thinking about that cheerleader that makes you feel better. Like if you have a bad day at work, who's going to really support me in that particular area? And this is what's going to make up your board of directors. So what I would suggest doing right now is that you take a moment, take 10 minutes, and I'm going to have you make a copy of the document, Breakout Reflecting and Mentoring, and I'll share that in the chat here. In that copy, you will find a developmental network map. And what you want to do is you want to identify, map, and strategize how to reach out to new potential mentors, peers, cheerleaders that have different perspectives that will actually help you to advance your career. So take a moment to do this, and I'm going to continue with our slides. So just put a pause here and you can come back once you're done, and because you're going to be using this in the reflection piece. So now let's talk about the importance of reflection at work. So reflection at work really helps you to evaluate your work progress and identify areas for improvement. So this could be on a weekly basis, it could be on a monthly basis, it could be quarterly, it could be every half year or year, or you could have multiple types of reflections to help you out. But what you want to do is to be able to set realistic goals and achieve them efficiently. So think about that timing and what makes sense to you. And then you want to actually use reflection to help you to problem solve and to really creatively think about your career. So one of the things I want to address, because there are barriers to reflection. And so the number one barrier is the lack of time, right? And you just get busy and you've got your boss, saying, hey, here's the next project. Here's what we have to do tomorrow. And so you don't have that time to actually take to reflect. Also, there can be lack of organization support. So maybe it's your direct boss isn't your mentor, right? And they're like, no, you can't have the time because we've got things to do. It can also be distractions. I know my phone can often be a distraction for me. And so, you're sitting down to reflect and you're like, you get distracted and you're like, never go back to it. There can also be resistance to self reflection, and that can happen just because I don't want to think about like some of the bad things that happen. And so I just want to keep moving forward. You could have the lack of resources, a fear of failure, and then also there's some confirmation bias and biases that we have. So there's a tendency for us to think to the negative and think, oh, I did terrible at that project, which leads to that resistance, right? But what it really comes down to is a lack of training. And so that's what I'm trying to help you do today is to overcome that lack of training and build some ways to actually build the reflection time into your schedule. So the first thing that you want to do is allocate and block time in your calendar. And so what I suggest is a half hour on a weekly basis. One of my techniques is a weekly preview so that I think about what's coming up in the week and I think about what happened in the past week that I didn't get done. And that is a form of self reflection. So it's a half hour. It just takes a little bit of time to really think through my week, think through my past week, what I need to pull forward, what maybe I didn't do as well, and what I did really well. You also want to create a peer group from your board of directors because oftentimes just sitting down and talking to people, if you're an extrovert like me, it's a great way to really sit down and say, how did we do on that project? Or, what are your skills in this particular area and how are you trying to improve? But getting that reflection group together. Also, using your mentor from your board of directors is really helpful because this is the person that is giving you both the career assistance and the emotional support that you need in your career. So if you do something bad and you're like not happy with it, this is a person that can support you and also give you a career advice on how to overcome it. And then finally, what I suggest is creating a library of reflective prompts. So, like I said, I have the weekly preview. Another one that I've created and that I do frequently is called a working identity. So, we're going to take a few minutes to explain that. And then you'll be able to take one of the links and actually do a working identity for yourself that you can share with your board of directors. So when you're thinking about the working identity, what makes you happy in your career is if you can get alignment in 4 areas. This doesn't always happen because there's one area that might be out of alignment, but if you're reflecting on it, you're more open to those opportunities as they come along that meet that particular need. So the first area is mission alignment, or oftentimes it's called passion. So a lot of people will say, follow your passion, the money will come. Well, that's not necessarily true. So you want to think about those things that interest you the most. So for me, it has always been careers. I love to think about how people go into their careers, how they leverage their careers, how they actually find their jobs. Really interesting to me, but I'm also interested in fitness and fashion. So I always say I could be Jillian Michaels or I could be Stacey London from What Not to Wear, because those are really areas that I love to talk about and I love to think about and I love to do. The second area is using the skills and knowledge that you love to use. So this isn't something that you're good at because you could be really good at writing, right? But that doesn't mean that you want to be an editor. It doesn't mean that you necessarily want to work in writing. So you can be good at it, but it doesn't mean that you like it. So think about the skills and knowledge that you really love to use. And you want to spend about 80% of your day really using those strengths. And a strengths finder is a really good tool to use to identify those areas. The third area is the work culture. And this is oftentimes the reason that people leave their work environment. And so when you think about the work and culture, you're thinking about the people that you're working with. It could be the supervisor. So if you're being micromanaged and you don't like to be managed that way, that would be a reason you leave. But you want to think about the environment that is most supportive to your career. So your team, your supervisor, the learning environment, the physical environment that you're going into. What does that look like for you? And what would really be a great place to work? And then finally, we have to talk about life needs because your job provides you with the means to live the life you want to live. So the first thing I always think about there is the salary. And what's the minimum salary that you need? And what's your idea salary, right? Because that is going to support the lifestyle that you want and that you need. The second thing is you might be tied to a geographic area, right? You have a partner or you have family members in a particular geographic area and you must stay there. And so that could be a life need. It could also be based on identity and that you need to see people like yourself in that work environment. And that is an absolute need for you. So think about those life needs. So as you're reflecting on this, we have created a document for you that I will share in the chat that you can copy and create your working identity. And what you're going to do with this working identity is once you have it, you're going to share a brief version of your career story with your board of directors because you really want to focus them to help you to focus on your career. So what strengths do you need to be? What career opportunities might be available to you? And it will give you so much more exposure to opportunities by sharing this story throughout your career. So it's simply my focus is on career development. My strengths are really in developing strategies and presentations. I like to work in an environment that provides me a team atmosphere and that is a joy to walk into, along with professional development opportunities. And it needs to provide me with X salary. I need to be located in this particular region. What do you know about this type of career? What role, what industry would fit for me? And you're going to get a lot of good information from that. So that is one reflection that I recommend doing on a yearly basis. However, on top of that, you can also do a gap analysis, and this really focuses on your skills and your knowledge. And I recommend this on a biannual basis. So what you would do is not that you're planning to leave your job, but pick an idea job description. So at one point in my career, I was like fascinated with INSEAD, which is in France, and I would have loved to have worked there, but I needed to develop international experience and to deepen that international experience. Now, my life needs, I could never go there because I had family. I was there to take care of family. And so it wouldn't have happened, but it was an ideal job in case. And so this gave me some ideas of where I could develop skills and knowledge. So what you want to do is take that ideal job description. You want to assess your current skills, knowledge, and experience to the job description, and then identify the skills, knowledge, and experience required for your desired position, compare them, see what's missing, and then create a developmental plan to address the gaps and achieve your career goals. And this is a perfect thing to take back to your mentor and sponsor and say, are there stretch assignments that I can take on that would fill these gaps in my experience? So that's another great reflection technique. So I hope you learned a lot more about mentoring and how you can really expand that to a board of directors and reflection and how that can actually help you with your career. So you want to use career services as you're thinking about this. VCU Career Services is just a fantastic place for career exploration. It covers jobs and internships and opportunities. And then, of course, there's always continuing education. If you find in that gap analysis that graduate school is a requirement for a particular job, they are there to help you with this area. But beyond this, when you think about those jobs in the spring, you should be thinking about the seasonal and part-time job fair. There's a nonprofit public and human resources fair, narrative media and graphic design, and then of course an overall spring career fair. So get these dates on your calendar. You also have the opportunity to get your expenses covered if you're doing an internship in the summer. and you're not able to cover all of your costs. So you want to be applying between February 12th and April in this area. And then finally, Suit Yourself Closet is a really great resource. So if you're going into that interviewing in the spring semester, you can take up to 6 items during your visit and be professionally dressed for your interviews. And then lastly, I like to talk about the professional headshots because this is a really great resource. You're going to need this for your LinkedIn profile, and oftentimes in different companies, they're going to put your headshot up for your first position or your internship, and they will ask you for this. So make sure you drop by the Career Services office for your headshots. And then finally, if you want to know more in depth about all of these services, connect with us. So you can visit our website, get to know our team, and you can request presentations. So thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Valerie Sutton. I am the Transforming Federal Work Study Internship Coordinator, and I appreciate your time and energy today for this presentation. Thank you.